Hey, welcome back to the CEO Next Door, episode 3. I'm Mike Mayer. I'm the CEO of Main Event Digital and your host today. I also have with me my co host, Donovan Morrison, the VP of Growth at Main Event Digital. Hey, Donovan, how's it going?
It is going well, Mike. Just another beautiful day here in sunny San Diego, so no complaints. Glad to be on with our first ever guest today.
Well, we have plenty of complaints here in Chicago. It's with the wind chill, it's about 10 below.
Ooh,
So
ooh.
we are,
I
we are
don't miss
definitely
it.
jealous. Yeah, it's miserable. Yeah, so with us today, our first guest, which is really exciting, and that's Adam Radulovic. He's the CEO of XL.net. Welcome, Adam. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Donovan. And just for the record, whenever somebody's from the West Coast and it's these 6 months of the year that cross winter, we don't like to know how weather is over there.
Don't tell us.
Just FYI.
Adam, I spent the first 18 years of my life about 20 minutes south of Minneapolis, and then was in Chicago for the past 11. So I feel like I've earned it at this point to gloat just a little bit.
Fair enough.
So today, our focus with this podcast is on founder stories, and Adam founded XL.net, and we're gonna find out a lot more about his company, or a little bit about his company, and how his journey went to get there. So why don't we start, Adam? If you could just tell us what is XL.net? What do you guys do?
Sure. We're an outsourced IT department that services small, medium businesses in the greater Chicagoland area. And we have two really key differentiators for us. The first, we're reducing 80% of the IT problems that end up to having a user call IT for help. And we do it from a technology audit perspective. And the second is we align the needs of every leadership team of our clients with technology and produce a technology plan to help get them on that 12-month journey.
Awesome.
Interesting. So do you work within specific industries, or do you work with all types of different companies?
All types of different companies. What's really key for us is the organization size to be anywhere from 15 technology dependent staff up to 250. If you remember that technology audit that I referenced, it's geared towards technologies that companies that size tend to use. And that's why we focus on that segment.
What are some of those services that you guys offer?
Under the outsourced IT department, there's 5 components. We have a 24/7 service desk. So any time of day, any day, someone can call us if they need an IT question answered, if they need some small changes to be done, or if they just generally need help because something's no longer working. And we have a central services department that contains all the fun tools of technology like backup, disaster recovery, antivirus, monitoring, patching. We have that audit department. There's system analysts that once a month, they're doing a full day audit of technology to see where there's potential security risks or vulnerabilities that can cause problems in the future, and making that phone call go away. We have technology steering through our technology officers that do the interviews with the leadership teams and meet on a quarterly basis to ensure that technology is given the right business results. And then finally, we have the project department that executes larger changes to IT infrastructure, whether it's hardware upgrades or setting up security systems, multi-factor authentication, etc.
Big is your team? Sounds like a lot of services.
It's a lot of services, but the team today is 28 full-time XL netters with 3 openings.
Awesome. That's a big team. So are you guys you're all remote now with COVID devastating the work environment, or do you still have an office?
Since March 13th, 2020, we've been almost all remote. We have a couple people that escaped the house and would go to the office, and we still have a small office presence, but most of it has been subleased.
Interesting. Well, I think I'm certainly curious, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. If you can take us back a little bit before we get ahead of ourselves, would love to learn about the beginnings of your entrepreneurial journey. Was this something that you've always been passionate about, or how did you kind of stumble into founding XL.net?
Sure. XLNet isn't necessarily my first, but the way that this journey started was at the Museum of Science and Industry, and it was early 2009. I was happened to be there at an event that I didn't intend to attend, but I crashed it, sat in the audience, and I saw a speaker, Gary Pica, talk about this industry. And my background prior to that was predominantly in technology and sales. And I thought that it would be something that I'd enjoy doing. To date, I was mostly working Fortune 500 companies, and really I got tired of working Fortune 500 companies. You know, the paychecks were good, but you didn't get the feeling like you're really accomplishing something as a team. And I wanted to work with small businesses where if you make a material impact and you're improving something, it's appreciated and you're watching that organization thrive. And that's what I wanted to be part of.
But your entrepreneurial journey started way before that. Because I remember when we had drinks, you were talking to me about BBSs, which I actually discussed on our first podcast. Talk to us about was that your first entrepreneurial endeavor or?
No, the first one was knocking door to door and taking people's trash out for 25 cents and organizing a group of other kids in the neighborhood do the same.
Wow.
So trash ballet of sorts.
Yes.
How old were you when you started doing that?
11 or 12.
Okay.
You know, you got enough money to go buy candy. That was about it. Yeah. And as a group, you know, there's 3 or 4 of us that would do it. We go through student housing. We went through, there's a lot of people knock door to door, and you know, within an hour or 2, you have enough to go buy some candy.
Was this a 1 week type of thing, or were you recurring every week back there waiting for garbage to be handed to you?
No, we did this, I want to say, for a complete summer.
Good for you.
Wow. Did you develop a subscription plan?
We weren't that advanced.
What'd you learn?
Like, hey, if we do this for an hour or 2, that's all we got to do. We get candy, and that's about as far as we took it.
What'd you learn from that little endeavor?
That if you're willing to work, you can make money regardless of your skill set. And we didn't have our skill set was knocking on the door and asking if we could take their trash out for a quarter. So that was pretty easy. That there's needs out there, you just have to identify. It's probably worth 25 cents for somebody to have to go put on their clothes, walk outside of the trash can, and go back up. So figuring out what that value was. It was a good, you know, and at that point I didn't see them as lessons, but you know, decades in the future, I'm like, yeah, there was a couple of things that I learned from that I didn't appreciate.
So where did you go from there?
Yeah, so there was ice cream or like shaved ice that we would use a little machine, create it, put flavoring in there. Years later that you referenced, ran a bulletin board system that was in an area that didn't have too many bulletin board systems, and I'm doubtful anyone besides Mike, you and I, would know what a BBS is on this. But if they do
you want to explain what that is for our listeners?
A BBS, think of it as a website with a community aspect and specific applications you can access through it. But back then it was a dial-up connected to your phone line. And if your house had one phone line, you can only run a BBS system while you're using that phone line. So you have to get a secondary phone line. Had services like news groups, they're part of it. So it's really an online community, the early formations of social media.
I ran one for years. I didn't monetize. Did you monetize it, or it was just for a hobby?
It was hard. I did for a short period of time, but you really had to differentiate compared to the free ones, and it was a lot of work for 15-year-old.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So did yours focus on a specific topic or area of discussion?
No, it was generally just open to people to use, and we focused on having higher technology and faster access to people that had it.
Okay.
Some integrations with information flow was a little more challenging in BBS days. So you had to do a lot of work to figure out how to get connected with other BBSs and have information flow between them. So we focused on that area as well. So better access to information.
You were a step ahead of me with the system integration piece.
It was
That's
tough.
That's impressive.
It wasn't easy. Like my background was in software development, so you had to jump in and do a level of software development to figure it out.
Cool. So where did you go from there? What was your next venture?
The next one was in college. The first one was project-based software development. So someone would come to us, say, we need a piece of software developed. And I organized myself and a couple of other developers that would do project-based work. That later developed to a website design company. And you're going to love when you hear what we used to charge. This was in kind of mid-90s. $250 to $500 a website.
You were
Wow.
underselling yourself.
Yeah, that was a little tough, especially when some of those were fixed fee projects that we'd spend 100 hours on. So if you do the math, we could have been flipping burgers and made better money.
Easily.
So definitely had some lessons learned there. And after that, it was a component for websites, chat component, to allow more sticky community for anyone that's building a website community. So we'd have live chat through the website, which today you see in things like Slack and Microsoft Teams. But it was early. It was the early days when really not much was available out there.
So it sounds like you've really been an entrepreneur through and through. Have you ever had a quote unquote normal job working in the corporate world?
So my first job that wasn't something that I started was hauling hay to
Really?
pay for prom. That is hard work, especially a day after it rains. You're getting up at 3:30, 4 a.m. and you're out there wanting to get done before the sun comes up.
Wow.
Even as
Sounds
a
like-
17-year-old, it was exhausting work.
Sounds backbreaking work.
It was backbreaking, and I knew I wanted to not have to do that for the rest of my life.
So you learned a very valuable lesson
It was
with
a
that
good
job.
lesson.
Yeah.
It was a good lesson. It made me also appreciate that there's people that do that level of labor
Mhm.
and they're earning a very hard dollar.
Yeah, you're right.
And I respect them.
Me too. So then let's think about, this whole journey of yours and balancing your jobs, your new businesses and your family and your personal life. How'd you do that? Like was that difficult?
So the first 5 or 6 years of Excel, you're working 80 minimum hours per week. It was excruciatingly challenging. Like you're thinking about your business nonstop, and you have a family, and you're trying to figure out where to put in sleep.
Right.
There's a lot of 4 hours of sleep days. Now, if I knew what I know now about what it took to start Excel, I might not have done it.
Interesting.
It was a heavy commitment.
If you knew that, would you have started a different business, or you would have just worked for the man for the rest of your life?
I'd have started differently.
Okay.
So I think the order that I put things in and where I put my focus could have been done drastically differently to not have to go through such a significant pain period.
What was so painful? What would you have changed?
From day one, we would have been process driven.
What do you mean by that specifically?
That everything that's done by Excel letters or by people in the organization be by following written agreed procedures, policies, and processes.
Okay, interesting. It sounds, how long did that take for you to learn that lesson? And was there one moment in particular that you can remember that really shifted your focus to a more process-driven organization?
It came pretty early on, but how to do it was what took us years to discover. Like literally half a decade to discover. Initially, I would document all the procedures. The problem was I wasn't training anyone on the procedures. And as I was the only one that was authoring them, as that stack of governance grew, it became impossible for one person to maintain. And we got to over 1,000 pieces of governance. I authored probably 90% of it. And because I couldn't keep up with it, it started growing stale. And then we lost the culture of process, because why would you look at a process knowing that it's no longer a relevant process?
Mhm.
How do you manage it today? Do you have someone that's their job is managing process and keeping all the docs up to date and training folks?
I'm so glad you asked. 100% of Excel netters author governance, process, procedures, and policies.
Wow. So it sounds like you've really established that as a core component of your culture.
Wasn't initially. It is 100% a core part of our culture. And I can't envision another way to scale a business without defining things to that level.
So besides process, what were the other changes you would make if you went back and started this over again? What would you have front loaded and what would you have not spent so much time on?
I'm extremely optimistic and hardworking. And I expected that I'd be able to do everything at once. So in the early days, I focused my efforts on everything to get it all accomplished as quickly as possible. And you know the line that going slow, you'll go fast. I didn't realize that line. So we'd go really fast, and sometimes in directions that were wasteful. Wouldn't put significant focus on the most critical things. So we didn't do a good job of prioritizing the few things that we have to do really well. We still have recordings of our annual and quarterly plannings, which was back in 2011. And we look at that list now. You know, sometimes we go and see how it used to be, but now 11 years ago. And we had the biggest wish list of things that we would accomplish. The third size of the team that we have today. Like we were just doomed to fail from the start.
Yeah, it's always fun to go back and see some of the goals that you set and maybe how naive you were at one point, thinking, okay, we're going to tackle the world. And maybe it's more like tackling a county and then expanding out from there.
It's funny, like every year that passes, we reduce the number of things that we're focusing on to do differently. Except our results are now increasing and we're moving faster.
To me, that shows that you've really identified your strengths and you're playing to them.
Just took a long time to understand that, Donovan. If I could skip the first 5-6 years of this journey, that would be great. Sign me up.
So what else did you learn from building Excel.net that you would change, or what guidance do you have for our listeners?
I think the difference between delegating and abstaining. Made a lot of mistakes early on and I'll explain the difference. Abstaining is going like, hey Donovan, you got the marketing side of the business, right? Okay, high five, I'm out of here. And never looking back. Delegating is working with Donovan to define what marketing is, what are the expectations, and then checking in with Donovan on a periodic basis. So and early on, you have this pressure. You do have to do a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are missing in your business. And you have employees that are telling you, have clients that are telling you, sometimes the bank is telling you, and you have this need to do so much and not enough time that you try to cut the corner by just shooting off something that you need done and not spending the appropriate time to delegate it the right way. That was a lot of pain.
Okay.
Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic to manage as your business is growing and you want to maintain control but also needing to let go and trust your team and doing it in a thoughtful way so that they can be successful and aligned in their decision making, so that it's what, at the end of the day, it's what you would have done. But that certainly takes a lot of time and effort to get to a point where everyone is on the same page and you trust people and you're ready to go.
Yeah, that version is a lot more time than just slacking somebody, hey, take care of this, and then leaving.
Yep.
Take care of what? What do you want out of this? Okay, well, you trust them, like they'll do their best. But by the end result, many times you discover, that's not what I intended in my head when I said, here's the one-liner, do this. There's a lot of wasted effort through that.
So what started as 80-hour weeks is now manageable, I take it. Are you down to 70-hour weeks now, or what does that look like?
No, I think today it's 50s, low 50s.
Okay. What are you doing outside of work to balancing yourself and keeping yourself sane?
So I've got kids. I don't know if that helps in the balance of keeping things sane, but kids definitely take time, and you're able to let go of some of the work stress. You're able to walk out of that and focus on them. As far as hobbies, my top hobby is scuba diving. So I go scuba diving a couple times a year, and I have been even before starting XL. And when you go underwater, it is like the most peaceful place on the planet. You're going somewhere where it's, for most people, alien. You're seeing things you don't traditionally see. And your focus is, how do I slow everything down to make this experience last as long as possible? For a couple of reasons, but one of it is you have a limited number of limited amount of air. So the less air you use, the longer the experience. And so you have to practice your breathing, and so it's almost like meditation.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be incredibly zen and therapeutic. What's been your favorite scuba experience? I'm sure you've seen some pretty incredible things.
My favorite one, oddly, just had it a few weeks ago, in a place that most people that don't dive will probably never heard of. It's a country called Bonaire. Or island. It's right next to Aruba. Only has 20,000 people live on it. And really, it's, if you Google it, if you look it up, Bonaire, the only thing that'll come up is scuba diving.
Okay.
Wow.
When I was there, I did a night dive. And a night dive is just what it sounds like. Instead of diving during the day, you're diving after the sun goes down. Bonaire is known for having almost all just shore diving, which means you go up to the shore, you just walk in the water with your gear and you're diving. Whereas most other places you dive, you get in a boat that's going to take 30 minutes an hour to get somewhere, then you dive, and then 30 minutes an hour to get back. It's a very convenient dive. So we did a off the shore night dive, and I was there just with a friend of mine. We drove up the car, backed up right to the beach. Grabbed each a beer while we're waiting for the sun to set. Sun sets, we put on our gear. You bring a flashlight with you. And we started swimming from the shore to get up to the reef. Once you get up to the reef, you descend, and we went down about 50 feet below water. So now sun's down, it's dark, you have a flashlight so you can kind of see. You're swimming then along the reef to get into really the central part of it. And then you turn off your light.
Wow.
So pitch black, under 50 feet of water.
Oh my God.
No lights. And you're just hovering on the bottom of that reef. Exactly 7:02 p.m. You see the most amazing light show in the world. Ostracods, which are tiny little brine shrimp, perform a bioluminescent mating ritual. And 360-degree views everywhere that you can look. You're seeing thousands of these brine shrimp. They're doing a pattern that looks like a landing strip. It goes light, 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 progressing bottom to top, and thousands of them all around you. There's nothing I've ever experienced like that diving or outside of diving.
I don't know how you even got on a plane to come home. That sounds amazing. I think I'd want to stay.
I had to do that dive a couple of times. It was such a great dive. I'm doing it again. Now you have a very small window, up to 15 days, but if you want to be safe, and experience the best light show, it's about 4 days every month. If you do it too late, you're then greeted by extremely painful jellyfish at night. So you tend not to do that. So I got lucky. I didn't even know that they had this light show, and it was really going to dive shop and like, hey, do you want to sign up for this? I'm like, I don't know what it is. Described it. I did. And then it's now my top dive I've ever had.
It's fun in life when serendipitous things like that occur.
Absolute accident. And the rest of the trip I was there, every stranger I could find that was diving, I told to go check out that experience.
Wow.
That's so cool. So let's go back to business. Talk to us about what you're doing currently to take your business to the next level, or are you kind of coasting and you're happy where your business is?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely not on the coasting side. So from early days, our plan was to have a scalable business. So one of the reasons why we're also documenting everything at such level is that we can make it scale, make it easier to scale, so that when new Excel letters come in, they're able to follow defined procedures. Our goal is to have 100 pods. And a pod, you can think of as an office that has no more than 49 Excel letters into it. We're doing that for two primary reasons. One, we want to be similar size to the average client that we're looking to service. And two, social bonds start deteriorating in a group when you're after some point 40 or so members. So we're on that scalability curve. We had a challenge probably 5 years ago where we started solving the wrong problem. We started figuring out, how do we add outside salespeople? They're able to, within a certain time frame, be able to be successful and sell. And we struck out time after time. It was five times we tried and banged my head against the wall enough. Started reaching out to some of my coaches and mentors and companies similar to mine across the country and world. We identified that we put something in the wrong order. What we first should have focused on is getting our inbound, really through marketing, to deliver high enough volume so that when you're hiring outside salespeople and putting them in place, they have warm opportunities to get started with. Not that they just exclusively focus on warm, but they have something to get started. Someone's raising their hand saying, yes, I'm interested, offer your help. This year, we've significantly invested both in terms of focus and money on marketing and inbound. The other two areas that are not related to sales and marketing, we're going through our ISO 27001 certification, which is an international standard around security. For the last more than 5 years, we've focused on adhering to it. It's a lot of work, but now we see it's important to get that certification, that third-party validation that we are a highly secure organization, which is extremely rare for IT firms that focus on small, medium businesses to have this designation. But as everyone's seeing in the market, hackers are being more and more successful in breaking through small, medium businesses. And we're seeing insurance carriers are exiting the market and not providing coverage, at least not at the cost that were previously, to small, medium businesses, that we need to put ourselves in place that we can help our clients and validate that we can help prospects as well. And then the final piece, automation, and this one's going to be a forever. I think every organization needs to focus on automation. It makes it that much more efficient. In terms of competition, So the theme for us this year has been inbound marketing, ISO 27001 certification, and automation.
Yeah, it sounds like what we're doing for a lot of our clients. Not the ISO certification, but the automation. We've been just killing it with, especially with LinkedIn automation, which I shouldn't even be saying on this podcast because it's technically not allowed. So we do it very delicately, but the engagement rates are ridiculously high, more than we get through any other channel for our customers. And then marketing automation, sending out automated emails is low hanging fruit, which most companies aren't doing. And it's just a no brainer. Rather than spend your time and effort sending out these one-off marketing emails, spend time building emails that you can continue to use indefinitely. It's and also where you don't even need to think about sending them. They just automatically go out once someone gets into your sales funnel, into your CRM. They start getting emails, trying to move them to the next part of the next part of the sales funnel, next part of their journey. So yeah, no, those are good steps. I think you're on the right track.
Love it. And I know what it takes to do marketing automation manually without the marketing manually. What would you call that? It's a lot of work. Yeah. Converting to marketing automation makes it a mountain effort easier. And there's examples like that across an organization everywhere.
Let's wrap up today with one more question for you. And let's talk about, we have a lot of people listening to this want to learn from this pod. So what lessons that, what have you learned throughout your career, throughout your life, that are the, most obvious or, most insightful lessons that you want to educate others on?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
If you're forming an organization, you're ready to hire your first teammate to join you. Remember, your first priority is your teammates. They're the ones that service your clients. They're the ones that create the products. Take care of your teammates first. Everything else is much easier after that.
Totally agree. I think that I would not be surprised, Mike, if this is a common thread throughout this podcast, just the importance of having strong relationships with everyone from team to clients to whoever you are interacting with throughout the life cycle of your business, as well as just in life. That is just so key.
Yeah, Adam, you made mention of it earlier, that delegation, and you need to be able to delegate. And without having a good team, that delegation is just not going to be effective.
Correct.
So I think that's the secret sauce. Donovan, you alluded to that when we were interviewing you and on our second pod. So yeah, I agree. That's going to be a recurring theme. Awesome. Any other final words, guys?
Thank you for doing this. It was it was fun. It was fun to mix some of my personal background and share it with everybody, as well as the business part. And I hope saves people the journey, so it's not quite as painful as my first 5 and 6 years were. That's
the goal of the pod. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on today. Very interesting past and successful career, and best of luck to you as you continue to grow.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Adam.